Hello, everyone. It's my great honor to give a presentation here. Today, my topic is how corporate social responsibility influences employee performance in construction companies, a qualitative exploration. The whole presentation or practices have a positive impact on employee performance. Internal CSR practices influence employee attitude.
Your slide is not completely visible. There's certain parts that cannot be seen. I tell you what. Yeah. You want to maybe one way is to send it to me, and I can help you show it. It seems that there's
Research context.
the research context, but your slide is not completely seen. There's certain parts of it that I cannot see.
Is that okay?
Okay, but eventually it'll be something that will not be there. All right. I guess you can continue until we find some problem. Or you want to send your file to me? I will upload it from here. I will share it from here. Can you send it to me? Or Rajan
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Maybe I can change my screen.
Yeah. The certain
Is that
parts have been
better?
covered by the. I think the signal is not strong enough or something. It's been covered there. Can't see everything. I guess.
It's better?
All right, and this is fine. We will proceed because I will read it. Okay.
Okay. Can I continue?
Yeah, go ahead. Yes.
Okay. Internal CSR practices influence employee attitudes and behaviors, majorly via a social exchange process, while external CSR practices influence employee majorly via social identification process. Consequently, implementing CSR practices would enhance organizational competitiveness by positively influencing employee performance. And construction enterprises are the main bodies that fulfill CSR. They provide indispensable built facilities for daily lives and productions, create plenty of job opportunities, and aggregate the progress of civilization. Many Chinese construction companies fail to act in a good, socially responsible way, despite great expectation for them to be socially and environmentally responsible. This is because construction industry is characterized by poor working conditions manifested in long working hours, high accident rate, and working injuries. This suggests the importance of getting engaged in CSR activities for establish positive reputation. Up to now, while many studies have worked on exploring CSR practices in the construction industry, few have been done for explaining relationship between CSR and employees' performance and to analyze whether CSR should be integrated in the HRM practices of the construction industry. Then it comes to problem statements. There is a large volume of research that probed into the impact of CSR on employee attitudes and behaviors, and the majority of research has produced positive results. However, the majority of existing studies were qualitative and confirmatory. That to say, these studies merely confirmed whether CSR positively or negatively influences employee attitudes and behaviors, rather than explaining how. Social exchange theory and social identity theory are two mainstream theories for micro CSR research to explain the mechanism by which CSR influence employee and develop research hypotheses. However, first, the two theories developed in decades were not developed for explaining CSR practices. Old theories may not comprehensively and perceptively explain new practices. It's necessary to develop a new and specific theory to better explain CSR in the employee domain. Second, the two theories, in sense, fall into the category of social psychology theory. And the two describe the interaction between individuals' psychological status and social environments. This process is greatly influenced by cultural factors because both are shaped by culture. As a result, the two theories may not provide valid explanation for the impact of CSR on Chinese employees' attitudes and behaviors, considering the fact that the two were developed in a Western context. Another problem in the extant literature is the lack of comprehensive understanding of how employees are actually perceiving CSR practices. Although CSR brings benefit to whole society, it's not likely that all stakeholders would positively perceive it. In an ideal state, a company could well balance the interests of different stakeholders via CSR practices. But in reality, there are interest conflicts between different stakeholders. And some CSR practices may be negatively perceived by some stakeholders. For instance, China reported that CSR practices that favor outside.
Can you move the slide a bit
Okay.
upward? Being blocked. Okay, all right. Yeah.
CSR practices that favor outside stakeholders over inside stakeholders trigger employees' negative perception of corporate hypocrisy, which subsequently leads to emotional exhaustion and turnover. However, the majority of extant research assumes CSR as a good thing, and employees will positively evaluate it. It's hence necessary to stand at a neutral stance when exploring employees' CSR perceptions and investigate both positive and negative perception, which generate comprehensive and in-depth understanding regarding how employees are perceiving their company's CSR practices and how these perceptions influence their attitudes and behaviors. Then it comes to the scope, aim, and objectives of the study. The scope of this research is employees' CSR perception as well as their attitudinal and behavioral response in Chinese construction companies. The overall
it's being blocked again. The scope is being blocked. You move a bit down. You got to see that here. All right. Go ahead.
Okay. The overall aim of study is to explain how CSR influences employee performance. To achieve this goal, the study consider employee CSR perceptions and attitude as antecedents, of job performance. Correspondingly, there are 4 research objectives. Number 1, exploring what are the paradigms of Chinese construction companies in CSR practices. Number 2, exploring how employees are perceiving their company's CSR practices. Number 3, exploring how employee CSR perceptions influence their attitudes. Number 4, exploring how employees' attitudes influence their performance in work. Next, I want to introduce research methodology. The study is theoretically underpinned by interpretivist philosophy because the ontological and epistemological assumptions of this philosophy fit the nature of this study. Interpretivists believe that social phenomena are subjectively observed and interpreted by humans, and hence the same phenomenon has different meanings to different people. In this research, it's believed that employees subjectively perceive and respond to their company's CSR practices because they have different experience, knowledge, backgrounds, personality traits, and values, and personal needs. It's necessary to choose a subjective perspective to understand their perceptions, attitudes, and behaviors. As we know, 2 logical reasoning approaches are commonly used to link empirical evidence with knowledge creation: inductive and deductive approaches. An inductive process begins with research questions, and researchers directly observe the pattern of a set of cases and identify common patterns from these cases. Subsequently, researchers developed new theories or hypotheses to explain the general patterns of the large group. The present study will adopt an inductive approach because the aim of the study is to provide new knowledge by developing a new theory rather than conforming or disconforming existing theories. As mentioned earlier, the author argues that existing theories provide problematic explanation for the impact of CSR on employee performance, especially in a Chinese context. Hence, the author expects to contribute a new one through a primary study. In this way, the inductive approach fits the aim of this study. Number 3, The study is going to adopt qualitative for the following reason. First, the interpretivist philosophy encouraged the use of qualitative method because this method allows researchers to use subjective meaning to construct knowledge for deeply understanding social phenomenon. Second, the qualitative method is merely exploratory and provides researchers with considerable flexibility in terms of observing, interpreting, and understanding social phenomenon, which is consistent with the above inductive approach adopted by this study. Semi-constructual interviews are implemented for collecting qualitative data regarding employees' perception of and attitudinal and behavioral response to their company's CSR practices. The interview is semi-constructual as there are predetermined questions. Interviewees are asked about how their companies are implementing CSR practices, how they evaluate these practices, how their attitudes are influenced by these practices, what the expectation of their company's CSR are, and how they respond to the company's CSR practices. Interview questions are adjusted after the completion of each interview according to whether these questions have collected expected data. Purposive sampling. We know suitable interviewees are employees from Chinese construction companies. They should have worked in their present companies for at least 3 years and be familiar with their company's CSR practices. This study used a purposive sampling method to select interviewees. The interview is implemented on a WeChat phone and audio of this process is recorded. The size of sample is determined by the extent to which the existing data is enough to answer research questions. With this in mind, the author analyzes the data after the completion of each interview and analysis which further data is needed. If not, the sampling process is finished. Next one, semantic analysis. Interview data is analyzed by semantic analysis, referring to a process of comparison and unstructured data by identifying patterns or themes from the data. First, the interview audio is repeated, listened to by the author and is transcribed into text. The author gets familiar with interview content and generates initial ideas for the data analysis in this process. Second, the author codes the interview transcripts and label content that is relevant to research question. Third, these codes are categorized into a set of themes while repeated comparative analysis. Fourth, These themes are reviewed by the author by comparing them with interview transcripts. The author evaluates the extent to which these themes have conveyed major information in transcripts and makes improvements. Finally, the semantic map is constructed by assembling these themes into a graph. Finally, I want to say the research significance. The significance of this study is multifold. First, this study differs from previous ones that quantitatively confirmed the impact of CSR on employee perceptions. The study is expected to offer a new theory to explain how CSR influences employee performance. Second, this study chooses a neutral view to exploring how employees are perceiving CSR practices, both positively and negatively, which is different from the assumption that CSR is good. In this way, the study offers new knowledge about the positive and negative sides of CSR from the perspective of employees, a key stakeholders group. Third, the study also offers significant HRM implications for Chinese construction companies. Manager could use the funding of the study to integrate CSR in HRM practices to better promote employees' positive attitudes and behaviors in work, which increase organizational competitiveness. Okay, thank you.
Okay, good. Congratulations, you have reached this part now.
Thank you.
Yeah. Do you feel that you have better clarity now than before, Charlie? You hear my question? You feel you're clearer now than before?
Yeah, after the previous period of study, I mean literature review and communication with you, I decided to choose the employee's point of view to analyze.
All right, okay. Good. I'm happy to see this progress. A number of things I'd like to point out to you about your proposal. Yeah. Let me see. Shall we go to the research? Your problem statement. The problem statement. Right. By the way, Zhao, you need to overcome this technical glitch, yeah, because there's I show you, right, in the WhatsApp. I took a snapshot, and then there's a problem with the visual right now. So there's certain parts that cannot be seen. So if you make your presentation to the committee, you do not want to have this problem. Yeah. So I don't know how you're going to overcome this. Maybe you want to test a different system, a different software. You got to overcome this problem. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Charlie, yeah.
Wait a minute. Can you repeat?
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't hear.
You didn't hear, all right. There's a problem with the visual. I think there's technical glitch somewhere, or I don't know. Is it because of the bandwidth, or is it signal or something? we do not see the whole of your visual of your presentation. There are certain parts of it is being blocked, so if this happens during your actual presentation, you have problem. I send you through WhatsApp what I see, and then you see that certain parts are being blocked. So you must overcome this, Charlie, for in your presentation, so that this one will not be a problem during the committee presentation. Yeah.
I see the information from WhatsApp.
Yeah, you see that it's being locked, right? Yeah. So maybe
I
you
don't
got
know. I don't know why.
maybe we can test. You can test different software, or maybe it has to do with the signal. I'm not sure what the problem is. I'm not quite there. Let's see whether your afterwards your other friends, when they present, whether we can see their work or not. Yeah, and we'll come back to this about this one. Yeah. Okay, your problem statement. So this is good. Yeah. You say these studies merely confirm. These studies mean that you want to state that the previous studies, right? The one you have there, the previous study. You go up, scroll up a bit, go back up, go back. Tell them go the visual. You go back up there. Not down. Up.
Up.
Yeah. There. Stop there. Yeah. So you said that these studies merely confirm whether CSR positively or negatively influences employee attitudes and behaviors rather than explaining how. So this is very good problematization, right? So you want to see how do they influence the employees' attitudes, right? So this is an important part you want to explain. Then you go to the scroll down a bit more down there. Scroll down. You have stop there. Another problem in the literature is the lack of comprehensive understanding of how employees are actually perceiving CSR practices. So you actually have two problematization points here, right? So one is what is the connection between CSR and the
HRM.
behaviors. Yeah, they're explaining the behaviors, not to show the connection, but to explain the behaviors. One, the other one is lack of comprehensive understanding of how employees perceive the CSR. So this is 2 points you want to highlight. You want to make it clear. Sometimes, like Zhao, when you have so many words, it become unclear. So people get distracted by the words, the text, that they do not see the main point. So you actually have the main points highlighted in terms of the black fonts, the font color. So you maybe what you want to do is to reduce the number of words in this slide, right? Reduce number of words in this slide, and put keyword there, explanation, let explanatory framework, let a theoretical, a conceptual framework. That's one of the problematization point that you can highlight. The other part is the comprehensive understanding of perception of the meaning the employees attach to CSR. So that will be another part. You can reduce the wordings, the text there, so people then don't get drowned in the text, right? Okay, this is good, right? Now let's go to your objective, research objective. I see that you're making progress. This is good.
This slide.
Yeah, move slowly. Okay. Scope, employees CSR percent. Go down. Now it's being blocked again. There's that thing that's blocked. You go scroll down a bit because the visual is no. Go up again. Your objectives. Okay. A bit more. Scroll down a bit. Maybe next time you send the file to me first or file to Raji, so we can upload
Okay.
it here. Go up a bit more. Yeah, not down, up a bit. Yeah, but a bit more. Okay, a bit more. You're making it big now, so right. The scope, I cannot see the scope, so I can't see the scope. Scroll up a bit more until I can see the scope. I cannot see the scope. Up, move up, not down.
It's
Up
okay.
more, some more. Go up some more. Just a bit more. I want to see the whole sentence there. Let's see the whole sentence. Okay, all right. Now go up a bit more. Up, not down. Yeah, Zhao, can you send the slide to Raji?
Okay, wait a minute.
You send it to Raji, I can help you to upload it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Only this slide,
Can you send
the
the whole file
whole.
the whole file
Okay.
to Raji, and then so otherwise we'll be talking about going up, down, that will occupy so much discussion time. Let me see, employee CSR perception as well as the attitudinal and behavioral. I'm not sure what is there now.
I may need some minutes to send the PDF pattern to Raji.
You can send PDF, you can send the actual PowerPoint, it's fine too.
Okay.
Yeah, it's fine. The other one is fine. Stop there, don't that's good, stop there, that's good. Okay, what happened now? Right, stop there. That's good. Employee CSR perceptions as well as their attitudinal and behavioral responses is Chinese construction companies. Their attitudinal and behavioral responses to Chinese construction companies. All right. So there are what is it? So you'll be looking at the attitudinal and behavioral responses, yeah, in Chinese construction company. Okay. And then you want to see the employee performance to achieve the study. This study considers employees' CSR perception and attitudes as antecedents of job performance. Correspondingly, there are 4 research objectives. All right. Exploring what are the Chinese construction companies in CSR practices. All right. This is the one I make note on. When you talk about paradigms of Chinese construction companies in CSR practices, you're looking at the level of organization. Am I right? Charlie?
Yeah. I'm sending the I'm sending
Okay.
the PowerPoint. Yeah.
Yeah, right. So I'm looking at your objective number 1. You
Mm-hmm.
state here that objective number 1 is to explore what are the paradigms of Chinese construction companies, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. So are you looking at the construction company, the paradigm at the organization level?
Yeah, in fact, there are many construction company trying to do some CSR practices to improve their reputation and fulfill their social let me say how to
Obligation?
say
Obligation?
responsible. Yeah.
Responsibility? Okay. All right. I'm asking you, how are you going to assess the paradigms? Are you
Um,
company itself?
by using interview methods to know what they do and what's the impact of these CSR practices.
Okay, there are two things there. So when you interview, who do you interview?
What?
Who do you interview? Who are your respondents for objective number one?
The employee from the construction companies, at least working for 3 years, and they familiar with their company CSR practices.
Okay, so right now you're actually looking at the employees' perception of what the paradigms of the Chinese construction companies are, right?
Yeah.
All right. So you're not looking at the paradigm of the company as an organization.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm asking you.
I will change. I will change it.
Yeah? No, you don't have to. I'm asking you. It's fine. I'm not asking you. So, say if you're looking at the company as an organization and asking what's the paradigm of the company's CSR, that's a different question than asking what employees interpret the paradigms of the company is, right? That's a different thing, right? So, okay. So I think Raji is going to share the screen now. Raji is our Chief Technology Officer. Raji, you doing anything now? Okay, beautiful.
Oh, it's
Ah,
clear.
God, that's a big relief, man. Right. Good, good. Now we can see. I can see clearly now. This rain is gone. Yeah, it's such a relief when you have clarity, like.
Yeah.
I see. Okay. Charlie, are you there? Oh, God.
Totally disappear.
Hmm.
Huh?
Like the internet connection unstable.
Internet connection again.
But still, but the video is stopped.
Yeah, something is wrong due to low bandwidth. If Malaysia has low bandwidth, it's okay. China has low bandwidth, that's not okay.
Why you jump?
Fine.
Oh.
Hi,
Thanks.
Chang.
I do.
How are you, Chang?
Charlie, are you back yet? No. Okay, okay. I can hear the voice now.
Oh, disconnect this one.
Yeah, oh, the low bandwidth.
Okay, back. Okay.
Okay, good. All right. So, you might want to rephrase this, Charlie, the objective number one. You might want to rephrase this because if you put this in if you phrase it that way, if you state it this way, it sounds like you're looking at the company as an organization, right? Whereas you are looking from the employee's perspective, right? Not that. So, uh, 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 I tell you what, the objective one and objective two can be combined, right? You can say to explore it, and by the way, you change the term which instead of exploring what are, you change to examine, to investigate. So to explore is not to some examiners this is not a PhD worthy term, right? So use the word examine, to investigate, to analyze, that's fine, right? So you replace the word explore with something else. To examine, to explore, examine, to analyze. For me, it's not the most important thing, but sometimes an examiner is trying to use that, the taxonomy, the right taxonomy works, the Bloom, forgot what's his name now. Chang, what is it?
Bloom taxonomy. Yeah.
Bloom taxonomy. Bloomberg is another rich guy in New York. The Bloom taxonomy. So explore falls under different category. Yeah. So we use examine. So objective 1 and objective 2 can be combined, Zhao, to examine the employees' perception of the company's paradigms and practices vis-a-vis CSR, or simplify that, to examine employees' perception of CSR paradigms and practices of the company, right? Basically, you get the essence there. So 1 and 2 can be combined. Good, all right. Number 3, and so number 3 now will be number 2, employee to explore how employees CSR person influence their attitudes. Okay. So performance of work. Okay. So to again, instead of the exploring, change it to 2. So when you have objective, you begin with the word 2, right? TO. To examine, again, just now you use examine, you can choose to analyze the employees' CSR perception to examine how employee CSR perception of the attitudes. Okay. All right. So to examine how employee CSR perceptions influence or are connected to, instead of using the influence, use are connected to, because sometimes it doesn't influence, but there's a way that they explain, are connected to their attitudes and their performance at work. And performance, or we might want to use a different word than performance, up to you. You can choose practices, or you can use performance as well. So the second one, you combine the third and the fourth, right? To examine or to analyze employees' CSR perception and their connection to their attitudes and performance at work. So that can be the second one, second research objective. To the third research objective, which is what you want to do, which is where the PhD worthiness of your research come in, to develop, to formulate, to build a conceptual framework that provides an explanation to the connection between their perception as well as their attitudes and performance at work. Because so this the second objective is just explaining what meanings they attach to sorry, the first one is what meanings they attach. The second one is to explain, get how they say the connection. The third one is actually to build that explanation, right? So the third one is the explanation. Okay, you get that, Zhao?
Can you repeat the last one?
So I'm
To
giving you
develop a framework to explain to the connection between perception and attitude. Is that right?
okay. So now we go to the objective number 3, right? Or you're talking
Yeah.
about objective number 2 or 3?
3.
3. Okay, objective number 3. So objective number 3 is to develop or to formulate, to build. You can choose whatever words that is appropriate here. Let's use a more interpretivist term. An explanatory framework. Explanatory framework. Or a conceptual framework, you choose a conceptual framework to provide an explanation that connects the perception of CSR, and the attitudes and performance at work. By the way, you can review the recording afterwards in YouTube. You can listen there. All right. So you have the three there. So you have the clarity. That's good. That is something that's important. So you have a research questions done there. Good. I'm happy with one. I can see that this is viable. Let's go to. You have any question you want to ask about this?
No.
No. Okay.
No.
Good. Let's go to your methodology right now.
Okay.
This is your second presentation, right, Zhao?
Yeah.
Yeah, good. Okay, so you arrived at this stage in your second presentation is good. All right. Interpretivist philosophy, and then you go to your methodology. Now, interpretivist philosophy tend not to be the inductive research. It tend to be the abductive research, but we will discuss that. Right? So let me discuss the more technical part first. Yeah. So what's your idea now? You want to study? You have an idea of what your sampling frame?
Yeah. I want to find sampling to interview and to get more information about how their perception about CSR practices.
Okay, what's your sampling? That's what I'm asking now. You will look at 3 companies, 4 companies, 5 companies, 20 companies.
I think the sample size is determined by the answer. I mean, why the answer can why the let me see how to say it. It's determined by interviewees answering. If the answering can answer my question, the process is finished.
Oh, you're talking about saturation point there. Saturation point is another issue. Now, we were talking about the sampling. How many are you looking at particular company or looking at several companies?
It's 10. It's about 10 company. Yeah.
Right.
I don't know. I don't know if it's enough.
I think there's a lot. 10 companies is a lot. Let me ask you the question this one. How many in each company, how many employees do you like to ask, generally speaking, in each company?
What do you like to? Can you repeat your question?
How many employees that whom you like to interview for each company?
If it's possible, I think it's at least 15 minutes, 50 members, 50 people. Yeah.
50 people. So you'll be interviewing 500 employees, right? 50 times 10, 500 employees.
You mean I need to interview more employee
Too many. How are you going to interview 500 employees? I mean, there's a lot of people to interview, Charlie. So I don't think you need to interview that many. So let's talk about scoping your research right now, right? I think you already have research questions. It's good research questions. Now we're talking about making a scope. Scope, right? So now you have those questions, which is good. So now you're focusing on manufacturing companies. Am I right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. For a good qualitative research, I ask all my students to have about 35 respondents. 35 respondents, not companies, respondents. Meaning 30, if you're interviewing employees, it should be 35 more or less.
25.
Yeah, 35, right. So you have few options right now. One is to look at one company and just focus on one company. You can do that. I usually discourage that. I would encourage you to do some comparative research, which is better. So at least look at 3 companies, right? At least. So you might want to go to 4 companies. Is fine too. Now, so you would need to identify the companies, the type of companies. Why do you choose this company? And you got to justify why you look at the companies, right? So, and you need to identify. You want to state that in your presentation, right? You got to say, I'm choosing 3 companies or 4 companies or 5 companies, but you got to identify the companies, right? You will interview a minimum of 35 or so. You can go more. 50 is fine as well, right? I would aim for more, but then usually when you aim for more, you ideally, realistically, you might not be able to get all of them, which is fine. So the minimum you should have about 35. Yeah, maybe 35. So the next thing you need to improve in your methodology section, which is also the sampling, which is also the research strategy. We'll go back to the research strategy afterwards. Is to identify what types of company you want to research on. So I encourage to at least look at 3 companies. These 3 companies should represent 3 types of companies or 3 variants of companies. So you say one is maybe manufacturing in electronic manufacturing. The other one is plastic manufacturer. The other one is textile, maybe, right? You can talk about that. So you're comparing between three types of companies. Or if they are all electronic companies, then you can also justify that. No, they're all 3 electronic companies. So because I want to theorize, I want to build a theory on electronic companies, employees, perception, and how they influence their performance and attitudes. You could do that. So, or that said, you still got to justify why you choose these 3 companies, all 3 electronics. Maybe one is located in a different place, one is have different sizes, or one has a longer period of establishment, or one has established for 5 years, the other 10 years. So you got to justify that. Yeah. So the choice of companies, you got to justify. Yeah. And then you want to you want to note in your purposive sampling the number of number of the sample size, right? So you want to say between 35 to 50 or something like that. And then, so the number is still important, and then you emphasize on the saturation point. Yes, in qualitative research, we interview until you reach saturation point, meaning the themes are basically the same after a while you reach the same theme. Right? So I will go for 35 or 40 range. That is the range. Now, I know that in some books, they say qualitative research, you do not need many, you need about 10, 15, that'd be enough. But we are not just doing qualitative research, we are doing a PhD research. So PhD research, if you go back to my video, I talk about having that richness, the thickness of data findings. So you want to have that, right? And you want to have as many different themes as possible, as many different phrases to reflect those themes as possible. And that can only come with quantity, not just quality, right? So you want to have that. So you want to note that, so you have that, okay? And what is it you want to say? So as you focus more in your scope, right? So suppose you take electronics company or electrical company or whatever you call it. So your theory can be about CSR in electronic manufacturing company now. So you become much more focused. When we make it much more focused, it's easier to make it original. You hear what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So the more focused, the easier it is to become to make it original, because no one has studied something very specific, right? So, so yeah, you can talk about something specific, and then you can theorize on something more specific. So that's the point I want to say. There are a number of things I want to highlight. Other things I want to highlight. Okay, in terms of your conceptualizing this research, right? In terms of how you are designing this research is concerned, the conceptual part, you see, you point out to something that is important, that is the explanation. So the explanation, the meanings, the perceptions, it's not just perception, it's also the meanings. The meanings they attach to what they see, to the policy, to the behaviors of the companies, and their attitudes and their performance. That is the part that will be the explanatory framework. You get what I'm saying, Shaolin? You get, yeah? So that is that's the big contribution you're making there, because a lot of research they just do linking between what is it, dependent variable, independent variable. But what you're doing is to capture how those things are connected, right?
How does things connect? Okay.
And how is it connected? Is through the meanings. Is how the employees interpret what they see, what the policies are, what the practices of the companies are. And when they interpret in this way, you get different attitudes. They interpret in that way, you get different attitudes. They interpret in this way, you get different behaviors, different performance. So that is the richness of qualitative research. You know what I'm saying now? So even the performance, right? Even the performance is defined by them. You let them define what the performance are, right? So you can have certain what is it, probing or sensitizing concepts, but then define what the performance is. So you're not limiting the performance to only a set of variables. You let them define what. So it can be, the performance can be talking about punctuality, can be talking about the productivity, can be talking about the sales, can be talking about honesty, integrity, can also be talking about the morale, the spirit of working, the motivation, the morale. Can they talk about absenteeism, absentivism, right? The idea of their being present or not at work. So there are different ways of looking at performance, right? So, and let them define, and they will create different explanation, and that is the strength of qualitative research. It's about theory building, right? It's about theory building. So that's the other part to your ni. Raji, can you go to the interpretivist philosophy there, Raji? Okay, interpretivist philosophy, and then what you also have is you talk about inductive research. So interpretivist philosophy tend not to be inductive, tend to be abductive research. ABDUCTIVE, abductive. They abduct, to kidnap. Yeah, not inductive. Inductive research is where you collect the data, you define what the parameters are, you define what the variables are, what to analyze, you defining the parameters of research. Abductive is just you let them define the parameters of research, the what to observe and all that, right? So if you're being interpretivist, you're going with abductive research, right? Because interpretivism is the underlying philosophy of abductive research. Whereas if you go inductive research, the philosophy there is positivist. Right? There's nothing wrong with either one, but if I understand what you want to do, you want to create a explanatory framework, that will be abductive research, right?
Okay.
Okay. And then you do have certain terms that you might want to improve in your presentation. You use semi-structural interview, something, right?
Literature interview. I didn't add into this presentation.
Not literature, semi-structured, semi-structural. Raji, can you scroll down?
Semi-structure.
Raji, just scroll down a bit. Yes, next. Next. Okay. Structured interviews. I think the right term is semi-structured interviews. Structured. T-U-R-E-D. Structured. T-U-R-E-D, not semi-structural. Semi-structural meaning there's something about the interview that has structural component or something like semi-structured. Right? Okay. Then you can just what else I want to say now? Okay. I think you're ready to make your presentation to the committee soon. So this is good. You can, what you can do is maybe we arrange for another presentation, right? The group presentation before. After that group presentation, then I think you'll be ready for the committee, right? Okay. We arrange for that. Actually, you're not too far away from the committee. You want to maybe one way to do it. Once you're ready, you make the changes. Just send the slide to me, and I will decide whether you need another presentation or not to the group committee, to our group supervision. If you need, I will inform you. If not, I will tell you that you just need to arrange for a Senpris committee presentation. Then after that, you can proceed for the collecting data and all that. Right?
Okay.
Okay. All right. Let's see whether you have your friends, your colleagues have some thoughts, some comments to make. There are a number of your friends over here who are also carrying out CSR, right? Including our new family member, Kailai. Zhang, right? Zhang. So Zhang is the old Chinese surname. So I remember Taiji Zhang Zhangfeng, you know that. Zhang, are you there? Not Zhang Yizhang, the other Zhang. Hey, Kai you're Zhang too, right? Zhang Yizhang, you're Zhang too, right?
No, I'm actually Zheng, the Cheng Hall, Zheng Yichang, yeah.
Zheng Yi. Oh, Zheng.
Zheng, yeah.
哎呀，你的汉语拼音走了咯，生气了咯。Okay. What happened to Kailai? Kailai, you have anything? Kailai is doing on CSR. Pravina, you're doing CSR as well. I think who else? Jiming, you're doing CSR as well. You have.
Yeah,
Oh,
Professor. Last
Yeah.
time I didn't want I want to focus my research on human resource management, but you give me some suggestion, and I think that's very reasonable. So this time I will change my orientation, research orientation, for the relationship between the CSRI, corporate responsible. What's that?
Corporate social responsibility.
I'm
So
little
you're doing
hungry. So
human resource and CSR too then?
Yeah. I think that's a good idea, and I think Zhao really made a good presentation, and we'll learn from her. I think very good. Not that deeper, but my research.
Okay, you have any thoughts? You have any inputs? You have anything you want to share?
Yeah, I think right now your suggestion is very reasonable, because for her the research target, I think number 1 and number 2 for the who you want to make you want to survey to carry your survey. You can't ask your employees for the principles or that, I think. And
Okay. And there are the number other J is also doing. I think J is also doing CSR. I believe he has many iterations on whatever research now. I think CSR. So anyone has any thoughts that you'd like to share about CSR? I'm glad that Zhao you come to a point that you develop more critical view that now the assumption is CSR is positive, right? Good, right? So, but the employees might not think that way. The employees might be critical of CSR, right? You know, I'm one of them would be critical, but CSR is a good agenda to have. We do not want companies that do not want to have CSR. That's even worse, right? But now you are not necessarily judging CSR. You are letting the employees to tell their stories, right? Anyone else has any take or any thought about this?
Doctor, I just want to ask
Okay,
you.
Pravina, thank you. Good.
35 respondents, right? You say that we need to have 35 respondents for the research or for the
Minimum.
minimum is 35, is it?
Yeah.
So if my one is a very crucial topic, like looking into the particular culture heritage, only few people practices, not a 35 would be like interviewing the whole village. If that is the case, how do I look into the 35 respondent, or people who are related to that particular project would be 35?
Okay.
So
Different research will have different research design, right? So for instance, when you look at Muzakir, right? Muzakir, I'm not sure Muzakir interviewed a whole lot of people, but Muzakir was looking at kind of a comparative study, right? Of two institutions, right? Started out 3 and then looking at 2 institutions. So when you slice it or you frame it as case study, it might be different than what Zhao is doing. So it depends on